We are spending the next week living with a 2026 GMC Sierra EV AT4. The all-electric GMC pickup truck is getting a more off-road focused AT4 trim. Now the AT4 is not meant to be a hardcore off-roader. They have the AT4X in the lineup, and of course if you want something even more extreme, the GMC Hummer EV is the next level, but this still has some credible capabilities off-road, and we're actually starting off today on a big private property with GMC with an opportunity to get the trucks muddy, do some off-roading, and as you can tell, this one already is rather muddy, so we did that earlier this morning to find out what it is like. There's some other important changes for 2026 for the Sierra EV. So there's additional battery pack sizes. There's a standard battery pack, an extended, and the max, and here's a pretty crazy number. With the max battery pack, this thing will now do 478 miles on a charge, which is properly impressive. It makes 725 horsepower, 775 pound-feet of torque, all very, very healthy numbers. I'm interested to see how does this compare to the Denali version of the Sierra EV, which is what they first launched with. How does it feel compared to the Silverado EV, Rivian R1T, and so forth. So it'll be really cool seeing how living day-to-day with this is like, doing a bit of off-roading, seeing those capabilities, getting it a bit dirty, which we have already accomplished. I'm actually rather proud of that. We got this thing properly muddy, so let's go have some fun. We're starting off with a pretty clean white truck, but we're about to go off-roading. It's rainy, muddy, so this thing is probably gonna get pretty dirty, so say goodbye to the nice and mostly clean looking AT4. All right, we are hitting the off-road trail. I've got my good friend Drake here, passenger seat, so let's see if we can scare Drake. Not really, this is not super challenging, but it is pretty muddy, slippery. We already ran it once in a leaf follow. Yeah, it's been rather moist today.
And we've had, you know, probably 80,000 pounds of Sierra EV passing through this way already.
Which the alarming thing is that's like 9 of them.
Right.
Yeah. These are heavy, heavy trucks, big battery pack. But AT4, let's see what this thing is like. What drive mode am I in right now? Drive mode is there. We are in normal. Let's go to off-road and have at it. So the AT4 does get a terrain mode, which we'll play around with later. And interestingly, this thing actually only has conventional coil suspension. Okay, maybe I'm gonna turn traction control off too.
Right, yeah.
That's what we were doing earlier.
Oh, there you go.
I had my foot constant on the accelerator, and immediately you can just hear mud being sprayed. We have gotten this truck very, very muddy already, and it's the one I'm spending a week with, so joy. What were your initial impressions about driving this thing off-road?
Well, we were going a little slower than you are driving right
Correct.
now, and we were in the lead follow. But, you know, it handled things confidently. It was kind of those moments where it wasn't getting power when I wanted it.
Yeah.
Turning traction control off helps.
Forward collision system unavailable.
But even with traction control off, it's not fully off.
Yeah.
And so there were moments where we were going uphill where we were losing speed a bit. But I think overall, it's like, oh, sorry, that's my...
Why did my watch buzz at the same moment your phone went off?
It's noon.
Notification.
I think overall, though, it's it was good enough. There's a deer. Be careful.
Oh, dear. Hello.
Oh.
No, don't run back this way. Whee.
Right across our...
Usually when there's one, there's others too,
Right.
so you gotta be careful. Yeah, so this is an AT4, not an AT4X, not an AEV edition, and if you want proper, more hardcore off-road, they have the Hummer.
Right.
GMC is the only brand with 3 EV trucks. They're considering the SUV and pickup truck Hummers 2 different versions.
Right.
And then they have the Sierra. So
marketing for you.
yeah. So this is one of those light off-road packages, but it's still, I mean, they've retuned various things and the
2-inch suspension lift. 2 inches over the...
Yeah. That's a combination of the tire and the suspension itself.
Oh, really?
Right? I think it's 2 inches overall height. Actually,
I thought it was a 2-inch suspension lift.
Okay. It definitely
We
has
should
a
check that
suspension.
out.
We should check that. Rear steering is fantastic. It
Yep.
helps make this big truck much more maneuverable. I would never call something like this nimble, but it does shrink the turning radius for sure.
But yeah, I think most people are going to get this either because they like the look of it, or because they need just to go on a gravel road every once in a while.
Go camping, that kind of thing. That's what a lot of these packages are. And they're like, they said AT4 was 21% of all GMC sold.
Yeah. I think it's really popular on Yukon.
Oh yeah, I see those a lot too.
A lot of people really like the Yukon and want kind of off-road.
Every single GMC model now has an AT4 trim except for Hummer, which I think kind of exceeds AT4 already.
Kind of its own sub-brand.
Yeah. What are the other things they changed for AT4?
They
tires.
increased some braking.
Using friction braking?
Friction braking for wheel slip management. Yep. There's no locking differential. They said they didn't really even consider it.
I think, again, not an AT4X.
Right.
Wow, this thing is big. Whee! You do feel the size and weight. Like, it's a big one. They also made the rear steer more aggressive, and not that it's more rear steer, but it ramps up quicker at lower speeds. So I think that's interesting to help maneuverability. It's been pretty easy.
Yeah.
You don't mind the coil suspension versus air suspension?
No, I don't. Because one of my qualms with this platform, like Sierra EV Denali, Silverado RST, Escalade IQ, is when you floor it, there's a lot of lift.
Yes.
And the steering gets really light. Yes. And when talking with some of the GM engineers, they said it's kind of hard to control air suspension lift. They can control the compression, but the lift is harder. So
there's a lot of mass that's going, whoa.
Right. So this doesn't really have that as much, which I prefer. And the ride, we drove up here 45 minutes. It was, very comfortable.
Super cruise.
I think the 35-inch tires on 18s help with that.
You actually have sidewall versus 24s on nothing.
Right.
This is set up for us to play around the crab walk, which we've done many, many times before, but always amusing. So you come to a stop, crab walk, enter crab walk mode. A little animation, some noise. Again, that's a Denali.
Yeah.
So all the animations are still Denali. I wonder if they'll change that with like an update. Go this way and kind of glide at an angle. My favorite is when you change direction, the feel of the truck just kind of like wee.
Right. And fun. You can't overdo it because then you start to steer.
Correct. Have you tried like parking when you're in crab walk mode?
You kind of forget you're in it for a moment, and then like you try to turn, and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, your turning radius is like 18 times what it should be. All right, does it go back into? Okay, went back to off-road.
Maybe it never left.
So crab walk still works in those different modes. Nice. Which way do I go?
You go right.
You sure?
I'm almost positive. On this first one, we went right. And you go for a ways, or you go up to that sign, I think. Seems like a lot less lift.
Yeah. And that was the Thor's Hammer, which is the max power mode, which gives us 725 horsepower and 775 pound-feet of torque.
Yep. There's more range this year. For 2026, all Sierra EVs have more range, and that was a lot of little things, they said, in terms of tweaking software and little components underneath the car.
Pretty impressive figure with the max battery pack. They say 478 miles of range. That's a lot.
That's Denali and AT4. So they're saying you're not going to lose any range getting these knobblier tires and a 2-inch suspension lift, which I don't know how they can say that, but that's what they say.
Well, they said the overall height is the same because
if you go into like the max air suspension mode
in the Denalis,
because
the OD is the same. It's 35-inch tires.
Right.
Just very different style of tires and wheels, of course. Whee! No, this has actually been, it is a rather easy off-road course. We're just frolicking in the woods here up in Michigan on some like giant property. We were told at first it was 1,000 acres and then it got inflated to 10,000. I was like, 10,000 acres? That's like half of Michigan, not actually.
It's a private hunt club.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. It's very scenic back here.
Very green. The thing I love about modern off-road focused vehicles, pretty much everything, they just make it easy. Like this has been just like a relaxing drive.
Right.
Nothing too challenging.
We were going like side to side.
But even then, it feels like we're in control, even though it's a massive vehicle.
Sure.
You've got, I've turned traction off, but it's never truly off. But stability program, everything. They even retuned the power steering, actually.
The slick bit.
Is this a slick bit?
Yeah.
Okay. I should keep up a steady speed, except for sliding over, a bit of luck. And to paraphrase one of our heroes, right, Jeremy Clarkson, speed and power. I'm flooring it, although that is definitely cutting power.
Yeah, you can hear it
going. Like my foot is complete to the floor. This is how you know traction control is not truly off. Whee! Oh my gosh, dude, this truck is going to be so muddy.
Yeah.
That was the goal.
Good for
But even that was easy fun. That was definitely pretty slippery for sure.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I kind of wish they had brought like a Hummer to see if it felt any different.
Yeah. The Hummer is just, I mean, it's also enormously wider, but
yeah,
the tires and I think the just overall capabilities. Oh, yep, this is a heavy truck that we just slid that way, but still fine. Hummer's definitely just another tier up, especially with the extreme off-road package where you have like the strengthened ABS active. Yeah, it is ABS and like crazy right now.
Was that one? Or no, you have one pedal off.
I had one pedal off. That was
okay.
Me on the brake. Actually, I think it was helping a little bit on its own too, because that was a downhill thing. This little cabin is where we've been staying this trip. A little cabin in the woods.
Yeah, don't look at Eddie's story of a 5-star hotel.
Very furnished with a pile of wood that you can light your little fire.
There's a little bench in there
marshmallows. Too. Yeah. Sleep there.
Uh-oh.
Quote, foot floor.
Eddie, it would be so embarrassing to
we're
get stuck.
moving slowly. I just hit my foot to the floor. Please? Yes! Power!
You know, I feel like that was traction control deciding, you know what, Eddie's
more
right.
Power. This is the way. All right, well, that was a fun little frolic in the woods. Thanks for coming along, Drake.
Of course, I was dragged
against your
screaming.
will, pressed into YouTube service.
Yes.
Yeah, well.
But if you go subscribe to my channel, it would make it all worth it.
I'll link it below. I'll link it below.
There's a lot of Canadians on this wave.
Oh, yeah. They smell like maple syrup. Angel was so tired of my Canadian jokes.
I bet. I'm tired after that one.
So after off-road shenanigans in the mud, you have to be very careful when stepping out because I do not want to step on that side step. I'd say we did a pretty good job. This thing is just coated in mud and grass, and it was white when we started. You guys saw that. Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, the way it just threw mud up onto the mirrors. This is how you should use your off-road capable vehicles, whether it's an AT4, AT4X, Silverado ZR2. Go have some fun because they can handle it, and that was definitely enjoyable. I found a dime. I'm rich.
That's fine.
Drake, you're a 10 out of 10.
Oh, thanks.
We just finished a bunch of filming for both Drake and myself. Time to head back. Actually, I noticed something interesting. The back of the truck is clean.
Oh, yeah, I know.
It's for some reason, like...
The AT4 logo doesn't even look like it's had any off-road fun.
Yeah. Also, stuff is starting to dry now, so we have these various different colors of brown. But take a look at the rear. The tailgate is, like, perfectly clean. Like, if you just looked at the truck from here, you couldn't tell that we took it off-roading, which is kind of funny. That's fun mode. Ooh, ready? Oh.
60.
Not bad.
No.
On the
Especially
dirt?
with loose,
Yeah.
definitely less lift in the nose than the ones with the air suspension.
Yeah. They say 0 to 60 in just under like 4.5 seconds, I think, for this one.
Which is absurd.
Well, that's absurd, but if you think about it, in the scheme of things of these electric pickup trucks, that's not quick. The Hummer obviously is way quicker.
That's true, but this weighs 9,000 pounds.
Yeah, well, so does the Hummer.
Yeah.
Because I had a tri-motor, again, I know that's a lot more expensive, but the tri-motor R1S with the all-terrain tires, I clocked 2.9 to 60 on the street, which is crazy. Obviously, kind of different. Plenty powerful, plenty quick. Drift it.
It's a truck.
All our tripods just went flying in the back.
Too much traction.
All right, Operation try to make the Sierra EV AT4 a little less muddy. This might take a little bit, but yeah, you know, all the hard work is gonna get erased. How many quarters do you think this is gonna cost? I'm thinking at least $12 in quarters. At least $12 in quarters. Well, $15 later, the Sierra EV AT4 is back to being mostly white. It's not perfect, but it is definitely a heck of a lot cleaner than before, so thank you to GMC. Time to hop in the truck, set up navigation, and head home. I've been on the road all week, so I'm definitely looking forward to getting back home. Let's see if there's some Super Cruise supported roads for us to try out Super Cruise, but in we go. Let's hit the road. Wow, almost immediately we have Super Cruise. Got the little icon. This road is Super Cruise enabled, and I am hands-free. Not even on a freeway. Just like this little country road here in the middle of nowhere, Michigan. We are heading out this morning to go tour some houses with my realtor. I'm gonna go ahead and put some stuff in the front trunk. So there's a button right here, right under that front camera. It opens up the front e-trunk. Nice and practical. It's sealed off. Out of all the GM EVs, I think it's only the big truck platform ones, so Hummer, Sierra Silverado, and the Cadillac Escalade IQ that come with a front trunk. I don't like, Lyric doesn't have it, Optic, all the other ones, even Vistic, I don't think have a front trunk if I am recalling correctly. We're down to 48% charge. That's showing indicated 203 miles. Again, we haven't been the most efficient with all the shenanigans off-road the other day. Foot on the brake. Turns on, everything boots up. No CarPlay though, so I have to manually enter stuff on Google Maps. Man, house shopping can be so demoralizing. All the nice homes are pretty much immediately gone and or going way over asking, but you know, that's just the situation we're dealing with heading to the next showing now. But some thoughts on the Sierra EV AT4, specifically the ride quality. Originally, I was thinking like, this thing needs air suspension. These big trucks like the Silverado, the Sierra EV, they need air suspension that kind of help handle the mass, the weight, just to make it ride a bit more comfortably. But after spending some time with this AT4 on the conventional coil suspension, I actually am pretty impressed. Like, I just went over some not so great bumps on the freeway, and it's comfortable enough. It handles the weight, the size pretty well. I think a big factor is also the wheels and tires. The AT4 is on 18-inch wheels with proper tires. You got a lot of sidewall, versus when you go up to like the 24-inch wheels, and you just have like a rubber band around your wheel. Obviously, like, it's not gonna ride as well, and having actual tire sidewall definitely helps, especially when it's this big and heavy. So I'm actually pretty impressed with how well this thing rides on the road. Fantastic Costco trip. Flowers for Angel, Lego Corvette for me. I love the front trunk for grocery runs, and then we press the button again and it closes up. And then put the cart back. Always put your shopping cart back. Be a good person. You know the truck is big when it makes a Cadillac Escalade seem kind of small. That is a regular wheelbase version though. This thing is big truck. I gotta say, this truck is definitely helping eliminate range anxiety because the battery is so massive. Even at 37% showing 160 miles of range, I'm like, not a problem. I'll go charge it up probably because I need it this weekend. I'm gonna be out and about, but yeah, since yesterday I've been all over the place, house showings, went to my parents' house, grocery shopping, and not a problem. Heading out for a very late night gym session. As we approach a truck with the key in our pockets, there we go. Welcome illumination, and then a GMC logo lights up in sequence too. Got the illuminated grille surround, so pretty cool front fascia in terms of lighting at night. Oh, the WOM lights, the wheel opening molding lights too. Little marker lights along the corner. I assume the taillight also has a welcome sequence. Let's see if I lock it and unlock. Ooh. Fun little animation for the lighting welcome. Oh, that's bright. Holy crap. Heading out to run some errands, but first let's take a moment to check out some of the design details on the Sierra EV AT4. One of the most obvious things is going to be the blacked out front fascia, especially when we have a white truck or a gray truck, because you have that contrast. On a black truck, obviously the whole thing is going to be black, but this entire front fascia here is all blacked out. We have the AT4 badge there, the red tow hooks, and just a slightly different front fascia look compared to the Denali. Now coming around the side, we have those 18-inch wheels, the all-terrain tires, giving it a bit more beefy of the slightly off-road look. Also, there's a AT4 badge there, which I did not see the other day because this entire side was covered in mud. We still have a bit of mud from off-roading. The fixed side steps. Now, the side design here is going to look pretty similar to the Silverado. They are platform siblings, but we also have the little lights here here, the GMC logo there on the wheel opening molding, and then a gigantic charging port. This charging door is just huge. We have the taillights here with the animation sequence, little step down there. It is set up with a tow hitch for towing, AT4 badge, and then the very fancy multi-function tailgate on these things, Sierra EV. We also have the mid-gate equipped on this thing, just like the Silverado and the higher option ones of these. It gives you a lot of flexibility, really nice functionality. Now, I think the Sierra EV looks more conventional truck looking than the Silverado EV. I think the front end lighting, just the face of the truck, really ties in more with the gas-powered Sierras and other GMCs, whereas the Silverado EV looks much more spaceship. So from that regard, I think the styling works a bit better. I actually like the way the AT4 looks quite a bit. I don't mind the blacked out front fascia. Comment below, what do you think about that? You could probably wrap it if you want, or just order the entire truck black. I know Drake preferred it not black, so he was not a huge fan of the two-tone, so personal preference, but the light kind of off-road AT4 cues here are pretty cool on the Sierra EV. So how much does the Sierra EV AT4 cost? Very interesting. The base price of the AT4 is actually higher than the Denali, which seems backwards. Typically, Denali is the top of the line, most expensive, most luxurious trim, but the reason is the battery pack sizes. The Denali is now available with the standard battery pack, which is smaller and therefore cheaper, whereas with the AT4, you can only get the extended or max battery packs, which are much larger and therefore much more expensive. So the base price for the AT4 Sierra EV is $79,000, whereas the Denali actually starts at $69,000 now, with the entry-level elevation starting at $62,000. So they've added more affordable versions of the Sierra EV. When it first came out, Denali, like the launch first editions, they were pretty expensive, like $100,000 trucks. Now this AT4 with the max battery pack will cost about another $10,000. So you go from extended to max, extra 10 grand, about 80 grand starting for the AT4. Now, which one would I pick? I still think the AT4 is the best one in terms of the way it rides, the overall package and everything you get. And with the max battery pack, the range is really impressive at 478 miles. We are visiting Electrify America, which I've always had mixed experiences, but we have some open hyperfast chargers, 350 kilowatt. This thing will charge at 350, which is definitely nice. Let's go ahead and back into the space. Rear wheel steering makes parking this thing so easy, even though it is utterly enormous. Like, I love rear wheel steering on the trucks and SUVs like this. All right, plugged in charging, and watch that charging rate climb. Almost 600 miles per hour, approaching 300 kilowatts. That's pretty impressive. Now it's predicting 444 miles on a full charge, which is not quite 478, but again, we haven't been the most efficient and ideal circumstances, but 444 miles on a full charge is still a lot. I'm not going to charge it to full because, okay, this thing has a giant battery pack, 205 kilowatt hours. So on a fast charger like this Electrify America, that would be like well over $100 to charge it to full. So it's not cheap. It's a huge battery pack. That range does come with a cost. While we sit here and wait for the charge to truck to charge up. Let's wrap up some final thoughts on what it has been like to live with the Sierra EV AT4. I think one of the closest competitors to this truck actually is within the GM family with the Silverado EV, because they are platform siblings. They're mechanically the same. You just have differences from exterior styling, interior, the way the technology is laid out in the acoustic package. Yes, the GMC is going to cost a little bit more. It's slightly more premium, but it does come down to preference. I like the way the Sierra EV looks. I like the interior layout, and I really do like the AT4. How does it stack up compared to the Rivian R1T? I just spent some time with the Gen 2 R1T. So we have to compare to the more regular R1Ts because they have a tri-motor and eventually a quad motor coming. And the power figures, even the tri-motor, are hysterical. 850 horsepower, 1,000 pound-feet of torque, 60 in 2.9 seconds, which I did on the street with all-terrain tires. The Rivian is really impressive. But this feels more conventional truck-like. This is way bigger. It's not as, again, nimble feels like a weird way to describe something this big. Even the Rivian drives a little more dynamically, right? But the range on this thing is just enormous. It's pretty much eliminated my range anxiety. One caveat, I do wish this had the adapter for NACS charging. So Rivian, I was able to go to Tesla superchargers, and road tripping that thing, range anxiety or charging anxiety was not a problem. With this one, I'm still going to CCS chargers. GM is expanding into NACS, and I think you can get adapters now. I'm not sure about that. I haven't tried that with the GM EV quite yet, but coming to this Electrify America station, I still have like a little bit of anxiety. That charger's not working. 1 out of the 4 chargers is not working. I mean, Electrify America still doesn't have their act together. Anyways, the Rivian has a lot of perks to it too, but I actually think the build quality of this is more solid feeling than the Gen 2 Rivian. The Gen 2 Rivian, I don't like the door handles. They creaked on the one I had, and there were a couple other little minor issues with it. Rivian's taken a huge step up with their autonomy platform, their cameras, like, it's usable now. The first gen one, I didn't want to use it, but it can't hold the candle to Super Cruise. Super Cruise is still superior in my opinion. Compared to the Cybertruck, Cybertruck is just way too controversial, weird of an experimental vehicle. It's not really a conventional truck. It's not even really trying to be like a pickup truck like this. GM, with the Silverado and the Sierra EVs, they actually made efforts to fulfill the needs of truck buyers. To be honest, most truck buyers don't actually use their tail. They're not like getting mulch every weekend, right? They're not towing their boat every weekend, but when they do, they want to have that availability, the functionality, right? And they plan for things like that, the mid-gate, the multifunction tailgate, the towing capacity, like it has the proper truck things. Compared to the Lightning I feel like it's getting a little dated. The specs aren't quite as competitive, like range, just blows range out of the water. This thing has plenty of power, plenty of technology. Is it as ridiculously quick as the Rivian? No, but at no point have been like, this thing feels slow, like merging onto the freeway, passing power, doing the off-road shenanigans. It is able to do everything I would want this truck to do. It is utterly enormous. Like, you would have to measure to make sure it fits in your garage. Parking can be tough, even with rear wheel steering on to make sure it's just the dimensions of it. It's massive. It is insanely heavy. You're not going to get away from that at all. But out of all the Chevy or just GM family EV trucks, SUVs I've driven, I really, really like the AT4 version over all the other ones with 24-inch wheels. I would definitely go for the AT4 Sierra EV. I was getting a truck like this, and I don't want to go ridiculous over the top with the Hummer. The Hummer is Halo flagship, right? That's more of like a toy. You could use this like much more practically, I think, than the Hummer. It's not as ridiculously wide. What else? Ram hasn't come out with their thing yet, the Ram Charger. Are there any other EV trucks? The Slate would probably fit in the bed of this thing, so that's not even, like, that's not a direct competitor, and it's also 1/5 the price, right? So I think they did a really good job. Cool improvements for 2026 model year. It was fun getting this thing off-road and properly muddy, and then getting to live with it for a week. It brings a lot of really good things. And now the other big piece of news for 26 is if you don't want to spend 80 grand, 90 grand, there's an Elevation for a 62 grand starting price, right? And it's still got plenty of solid range and lots of nice features, and it looks very similar, right? So like, they're offering more and more options as they just need to continue to expand to the masses with the electric trucks. What do you guys think of the AT4? Which one would you get? Would you go Sierra, Trail Boss, EV RST, Silverado RST, Sierra EV, Denali, AT4? Which one? Which one? Comment below. Would you go for the Rivian? I think I would consider daily driving one of these. It's really nice, especially Michigan roads. Like, the wheels and tires make not a problem, no concern. I don't want 24-inch wheels. They're cool, they look cool, way too big. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this vlog. Thanks for watching.